How's it going, everybody? I am ZBilbs, and I am back here today with another Metal Albums Ranked video. Today we are going back on the power metal train once again because I am looking at one of the classic power metal bands, and that is HammerFall. These guys, they're one of the OGs when it comes to power metal. They helped, bring energy into the whole power metal scene. They've been around since the late 90s and something, and they've got 12 albums. I was going to say pretty solid albums, but not definitely. They tend to decline. I would say a common theme for this list you'll see is, I think, mostly it's pretty good, but once you get into the 2010s, I think it gets pretty rocky. I'll talk a little bit more on that once I get into the actual albums. But it was nice to have a shorter band to do rather than Judas Priest and Black Sabbath, so this was nice, and I definitely enjoyed HammerFall overall. And yeah, without further ado, let's just get into the ranking. So starting off at my number 12 spot, I have got my least favorite album by a long margin, and that is Dominion. This is their second most recent album, coming from 2019, and this is their one album that I can firmly say is a genuinely bad album. I do not like this album in the slightest. In fact, it's probably one of my least favorite albums that I have heard. Um, I haven't really gone out of my way to listen to many bad albums, but really, it's kind of disappointing when it comes to HammerFall's bad stuff, because most of the time, they don't really have anything that's like just egregiously bad, or I'm just like, oh, just this is unlistenable, I can't listen to this. But generally, HammerFall, I'd say they peak in the 2000s. They kind of their first three albums, they've got a similar quality. They get into their next like three or four albums, and it's then they even step up their game in a little bit. Once they get to like 2010 and Infected comes out, it kind of feels like they're past their peak, and they're just kind of can't figure out anything creative to do. And it feels like the albums after that, they're just churning out the same stuff over and over and over again. There's just no interesting iteration on their style. It's like I've heard this same style, the same thing over and over again, and it just ends up being boring. Nothing from their later stuff is like just egregiously bad. It's just really uninteresting. And I think Dominion is the absolute epitome of a completely forgettable HammerFall album. I would say if you're just a fan of just HammerFall and their style in general, I'm sure there are people who would enjoy this album and their later stuff. But for me, there's nothing interesting enough where I would listen to this album over pretty much any other HammerFall album. It feels like it's just reiterating the same stuff. The one song on here where I'm like, yeah, that's pretty interesting, that's pretty good, is Testify. And even then, I feel like I've heard that style over and over and over again. The whole like testify, how they have, the main singer, and he has his like high voice that sounds the same for every single album, and then they've got those like deep like background vocalists who do all that stuff. And it's like, you've heard this like from Any Means Necessary, and then you've heard that like low backing vocals over and over and over again. And like, even though it's still like a good song, it's like, please give us something new. And Dominion absolutely was not that, and I think it's a similar case for these next albums coming up. But I think Dominion is just the absolute worst when it comes to just rehashing the same crap over and over and over again. Even if there's nothing egregiously bad about it, it's just completely uninteresting. But that is Dominion at number 12. Moving on to number 11. I will say these next three are a solid step up from Dominion, but they all suffer from similar issues. And at number 11, I have Infected. This came out at 2010, and I think this was kind of the beginning of the end when it came for HammerFall, sort of. I feel like this was just a massive step down for HammerFall in quality. I mean, right before this, you had one of their better albums in No Sacrifice, No Victory, and then they put out this, and Right off the bat, it's an incredibly confusing album just by the name and the artwork in general. They've got their, Hammer Dude mascot. I have no idea what the name is. In every single album except this one, they just have a zombie hand sticking up, and it's called Infected. And then you would think like, oh, maybe it's like a concept album about an infection or something like that. And it's not that. There's one song called Patient Zero that besides the long like dumb 2-minute intro of weird noises and like infection stuff, it's an okay song, but like that's it for the whole infected theme. The rest of it is just regular songs. There's no real concept albums as far as I know when it comes to HammerFall stuff, which seems like a really missed opportunity because HammerFall, they've kind of just got the same stuff over and over. So Infected was like, okay, this could be a new fun change of pace, but it ended up not being it. It was really just HammerFall just stagnating after their first albums that got them up there. I don't know how many is before this, probably like 7 or so. I think this is their 8th, but it just really feels like the same HammerFall schlock, over and over. Maybe there's some like slightly different experimental stuff with the whole Patient Zero thing, but really there's just nothing special at all about this album. Some of the better songs, I said Patient Zero is all right, but the intro just absolutely ruins it for me. Dia de los Muertos, or Dia de Muertos, how is that? Yeah, Dia de los Muertos. That's an all right song. You've got BYH for Bang Your Head. It's pretty cheesy, but it's pretty good. And then they've actually on this album, the one really good saving grace is The Outlaw. I think that's a genuinely excellent song. It's one of my favorite HammerFall songs. But besides those three, there's really just nothing interesting at all about this album. So that's why I got Infected at number 11. But continuing on with the boring 2010s era of HammerFall, I've got Built to Last coming in at number 10. This came out in 2016, I believe. And once again, it felt just the same tired old trope of HammerFall stuff. There was nothing consistently special or interesting about it. It's got a couple of solid songs. Built to Last, the title track, it obviously feels incredibly derivative of other stuff, but it's fun in its own right. Let's see, what else we got? The Sacred Vow is also pretty good. Probably the best one off of here is Bring It. Once again, it's derivative, just like Built to Last, but once again, HammerFall, they do have a good formula, and they can make that formula work, but at this point in their career, it just really got tired. And those three were just the best ones. The other ones are even more derivative and just boring, uninteresting. But Built to Last, with those three, I think it puts it ahead of Infected and definitely Dominion. But really not that interesting. So moving on to number 9. This is the last one in, I think, just the boring, just kind of throwaway era of HammerFall. And that is Revolution, which, what a dumb album title, like, right off the bat. It's like Evolution, and then they've got a little R in parentheses, so it's Revolution. It's like, why? Why did you do that? They're trying to be cute with the name, but it's really just stupid. But besides that, I'd say it's the best of the bad era of HammerFall. It's still, derivative, uninteresting like the rest of it, not enough new or iteration for the HammerFall formula, but it's got the most songs that I actually enjoy out of the other ones. Let's see, we've got Hector's Hymn, which is actually a really solid song. Revolution, the title track, is decent. Then we've got We Won't Back Down, which is another actually really solid song, and Wildfire, which that's the one where I was like, okay, you know what, this is something kind of new and interesting. It's really fast. I love the wildfire, like it was like, it was very much HammerFall, but it felt newish in a way that most other of their songs in this era were not. And it was also a good song. But besides that, once again, the album was really uninteresting, really derivative. But that's about all I've got to say. I don't like talking too negative about bands or bad albums, especially a band like this that I do genuinely enjoy a lot of their stuff. So let's just move on from this kind of crap era and get into some actual good stuff. So that was number 9. And then moving on to number 8, we're finally getting to a good one, and that is Renegade. Is probably a little low for most people. Most people, I think, have like the top 3, the first 3 HammerFall albums pretty high. Often it's like the first 3, it's like 1, 2, 3 listed as like people's 1, 2, and 3, which I get because the early era of HammerFall was very good and kind of set the foundation for their band and a lot of power metal, and this is definitely a really solid album. Now, why I do tend to put this album lower than the other kind of classic albums is, well, I do think it does have that really good classic vibe to it. It has a really nice, consistent quality. There are very few tracks that miss on here. The tracks that are good just don't quite reach the levels of other HammerFall tracks. There's a lot of tracks that I think are like solid, but nothing quite special. The ones that I enjoy would be Templars of Steel, Keep the Flame Burning, Way of the Warrior, Destined for Glory, and Raise the Hammer. Which Raise the Hammer, that's a pretty good instrumental. They've got a good handful of instrumentals. The only one song where I'm like, okay, that's genuine, that's a pretty banger song, is the title track, Renegade. But even then, there's still a lot of HammerFall songs that I like more than Renegade. So a good number of songs that are decent and I do enjoy listening to, but there's just a lot more of HammerFall that just has much higher highs in this album, which is why I can't put the Renegade any higher than number 8. But moving on to number 7, now we're getting to one that you may have thought that I missed when it came to my crap era of HammerFall, because next up I've got their album that came out this year, and that is Hammer of Dawn. This, I believe, brings in good omens for the future of HammerFall, because going through, once I got to the later HammerFall stuff, I was like, okay, HammerFall is just cooked. They can't make any good albums, especially after Dominion. I had absolutely zero expectations for this album, and I came out pleasantly surprised. I think it does suffer from similar things. There is quite a number of tracks that are just too boring and derivative, but there are also a solid handful of tracks I was like, that was genuinely great. Those being Too Old to Die Young, which is actually, honestly, I think that's one of my favorite HammerFall songs right now. It's just really beautiful and awesome. What else we got? No Mercy, that's a decent one. Some other really great ones, Venerate Me is really solid. No Son of Odin is also awesome, and Hammer of Dawn, the title track. It's probably my second favorite off the album, right behind Too Old to Die Young. And it's another like absolute banger song. Obviously, there is a solid handful of kind of mediocre songs from this album, which is why I don't think I can put it any higher. But if HammerFall can keep coming out with albums that continue to give us some genuine, like, kind of newer, more interesting sounding songs, then I'm excited for their future, because I'm hoping that now that HammerFall is out of the 10s into the 20s, that they're gonna inject new life into their style, because Hammer of Dawn, it was a solid album. But yeah, I've got Hammer of Dawn coming in at number 7. Moving on to number 6, we have got the original OG album, and that is Glory to the Brave. Once again, this is a lot of people's favorite. It was, the first album, probably the most influential. There's one other that might be a little bit more. And, this is another really decent album. Just like Renegade, the quality is really consistent. It set the benchwork for what HammerFall would do and what power metal would do in general. But just like Renegade, I think this album generally has a lot of songs with really good, consistent quality, but very few that quite reach the heights of other HammerFall albums, which is why I can't put it any higher than 6. I can understand if other people just enjoy these songs more. I thought, for the most part, they were just good, with an exception of The Dragon Lies Bleeding. I think that's a genuinely excellent song. These next few I'm about to list, I think, are just good, but nothing incredibly special. Let's see. So they've got HammerFall, the title track. I think that's good. I don't love it as much as other people do. I Believe is solid. Stone Cold is solid. Unchained and Glory to the Brave are also really solid. Also, did I say HammerFall is the title track? I meant that's the band track. Glory to the Brave is the title track. I digress. But yeah, a lot of people really love a lot of those songs. I think they're just good. I definitely worth listening to, but I don't think they're close to the top tier of HammerFall. Only The Dragon Lies Bleeding, I think, is really great. So overall, a really, really solid album, but can't quite put it any higher than 6. So that is Glory to the Brave. All right, now we're getting into the real heavy hitter albums, in my opinion. And starting off, number 5, I have got Threshold. This is probably my favorite era of HammerFall. It is, I think albums 4 through 7. And I think that's just the era where they're after their first 3, and then they're just kind of taking that and pushing the boundaries a little bit. I think most people like the first 3 the best. I do like those a lot, but my favorite era is probably 4 through 7. And this is, it's probably my least favorite out of that era. I still think it's a really solid album. Some of my favorite tracks from this, we've got the title track, Threshold. That's probably my favorite on the album. It's one of my favorite HammerFall songs. Other good ones, you've got Natural High. Howlin' with the Pack is all right. It's got some really kind of cheesy, cringy lines, but it's also kind of fun. Shadow Empire, Reign of the Hammers, another really solid instrumental, and then Genocide and Titan. Those are two other songs from this album that I think are genuinely bangers and hold this album up even more. But I don't have much else to say about this album. I think it's a really solid album from a really solid HammerFall era. It just, I guess, doesn't quite have as good of tracks as albums higher than this spot. I'm sorry. But yeah, moving on to number 4, I've got Legacy of Kings. This may be blasphemy to put at number 4 because this is probably, genuinely, it's usually Glory to the Brave or Legacy of Kings that are cited as people's favorite HammerFall, which I can see why. The first 3 albums are definitely are classic, have some great songs. As I just said, I like the kind of the second era of HammerFall a little more, but still, I think this is still a really, really solid album. Some of the best songs from this album include Heeding the Call. That's an excellent way to open the album, and one of the best from the album. Legacy of Kings is title track. It's really good. Not necessarily my favorite from the album, but pretty solid. Dreamland is all right. Remember Yesterday is a nice or upbeat song. At the End of the Rainbow is probably my favorite from this album. That's the one I feel like I may be mistaken but kind of pioneered the whole background chanting where they're like da 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 da, and it's not the main high-pitched singer. It's the low-pitched background. This is the song that I think pioneered that style that they would kind of do over and over and over and over again to varying success, but still excellent song either way. Back to Back is really good, and Stronger Than All is another genuine banger. So a really good consistent album overall. Just once again, other albums have even more consistency and even higher of highs. So moving on into the top 3, and at number 3, I have Chapter 5, Unbent, Unbowed, Unbroken. What a freaking sick album title right after that. It's also got really great album art. I love the dude just standing out in the cold and just looking like a freaking beast. But I digress. The songs also are really great too. This album, it's a little different when it comes to why I like it so much. I would say generally, it doesn't quite have a good consistency throughout. I would say half of these albums in here are okay to mediocre, and the other half are absolute best of the best, top tier HammerFall songs, which it tends to make it lean higher. but if this one had better quality throughout, more consistency, this could easily been my favorite HammerFall album. But still, it comes in at number third. The songs that hold it like way high in my ranking, Secrets is a decent one. Never Ever, that's another really great. That the vocals on the singer, I don't know his name, I'm sorry, they really shine on that one. Take the Black is decent. Hammer of Justice is really good. And then my two favorite HammerFall songs as of right now are also on this album, being Fury of the Wild is spectacular, and then my favorite being Bloodbound. It's Bloodbound, everybody knows it, everybody loves it, it's spectacular. Just the epitome of just awesome, just fast-paced HammerFall power metal. It's so good. But yeah, I would love to put this album higher if it had more songs that were of similar quality, but I can't, so it misses out on the top two, but still at number three, which is really good. All right, down to our top two. These two were so freaking close as to which one I liked more. I could see myself switching these on a different day. They are so close as to which one I like. I wish I could give a tie, but I ended up just going with my gut on this one. So at number two, I have Crimson Thunder. This is a absolutely banger album. It's got amazing quality. It starts my favorite era of HammerFall, and it's just really great overall. Some of my favorite tracks include, obviously, the title track, Crimson Thunder, is really awesome. The Unforgiving Blade is nice. In Memoriam is a nice instrumental. Obviously, probably the most popular HammerFall song of all time is in this album. That's Hearts on Fire. Not my favorite HammerFall song. It's definitely in my top 10, but I think it's a little bit overrated, overplayed. Still a great song, though. Riders of the Storm is another really solid one. On the Edge of Honor is also awesome, and I think my favorite from this album, it might be Riders of the Storm, but Trailblazers is also spectacular. I love the main chorus of Trailblazers do or die. Like, it's so good. So, you know, the quality is really consistent throughout. It's got so many banger songs, and it misses out on first just by a bit. But I had to give my first place pick to No Sacrifice, No Victory. I mentioned earlier that that was one of the better albums, and what I really meant was it is the best album, in my opinion, of course. Once again, I think that this is just loaded with absolutely top tier songs, and it's incredibly consistent in quality. Besides, I'm not a huge fan of the album art, but you know that doesn't indicate quality, thankfully. But some of my favorites from this album, obviously, you got Any Means Necessary. That's probably like the second most popular HammerFall song, and it for good reason. It's awesome. Between Two Worlds is decent. Hallowed Be My Name is decent. Obviously, I don't like it. It feels like it's ripping off Iron Maiden a little bit. Hallowed Be Thy Name is a lot better, but it's still a good song in its own right. Let's see. Then you've got One of a Kind. That's another really decent one. Something for the Ages is my favorite HammerFall instrumental. It's, you know, I enjoy instrumentals, but rarely is there an instrumental that'll be like, this is not just like an instrumental that I'll listen to and I'll be like, oh yeah, nice technique, that's cool. Where I'm like, this is like good as like just a song in general. Just like, you can just feel the chorus and the melody, and it's just so just well put together and enticing and powerful. That's a fantastic song. No Sacrifice, No Victory is an awesome title track, and my favorite on this album, and probably my third favorite HammerFall song overall, is Bring the Hammer Down. That's got, it's such a great mix of like the low backing vocals and then the singer's like high vocals. It's a fantastic song, and overall, I'd say that is the one that carries me to make this album my favorite HammerFall album overall. But that will conclude my picks for my top 12 favorite HammerFall albums. Let me know in the comments how you would rank the HammerFall albums. Let me know how much you agree or disagree with my picks as well. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like. Future videos, I'm currently listening to Halloween, so we're keeping on that power metal binge, and that should be my next one. I don't know when the next video is coming out. Obviously, this one took a while for it to come out because, you know, it takes a while for me to listen to these albums and really soak them in and make my decisions. And I haven't really had the motivation to do any other type of videos, so you know, videos will come when they come, but I hope you enjoy them when they do nevertheless. But yeah, leave your comments, let me know what you'd like to see next, but that's all I got for you. I'll see you later.